Alright, so we're back once again, and today, well, we're focusing a little bit of a different pace, shall we say. We're going to be going over a little bit of gameplay that I had recently in a ranked game. Ranks actually changed quite a bit. Actually, this season of ranks significantly different. Obviously, you have the bronze, gold, and silver stuff you have to get your way through, but at the same time, I think the only real significant difference is the fact that you can get all the rewards, all the steel, without actually having to get to rank 1, or whatever the equivalent is in this ranking system, so that's always good. And we are playing the Chapayev, which I think this was the first game. I actually decided to play this ship because I was sick of playing the Lightning and having to really try hard every single game in ranked. So I decided to pick up this ship, and at this point I was unsure with the Russian cruiser changes whether this was now a heavy cruiser or a light cruiser, so I decided to play it like a heavy cruiser, which you're going to see in a little bit. But other than that, we're just going to go over this game, take it nice, take it easy. Obviously the title of this video is basically 1,000 hours of World of Warships, and for me, I basically have about 3,000 hours, or 3,000 games effectively, and seeing as each game lasts roughly 20 minutes, we're going to divide by 3, because there's 3 20 minutes in an hour, and the math lesson over, that equates to about 1,000 hours of World of Warships. And I like to think of myself as a fairly average player, so hopefully this is representative of, if you're an average player and you spend this much time playing the game, this is basically what you can hope to achieve. But with that being said, we do have the Cossack on our team, who's going to push into A. They have a Cossack at Kajero, I can never pronounce that anyways. That means a Baltimore, a Vladivostok, Odin, and a Monarch. Now the exciting part of this game doesn't really come until a little bit later, as I've been experiencing a little bit of lag as of recent, which is to be expected. But the Cossack's going to push in here, which is generally never a smart thing to do in this situation, because, well, it's kind of like walking down a dark alley at night. You never quite know what's going to approach you, and as the Cossack is about to find out, he's going to be encountering a Baltimore and an enemy DD. He unfortunately recognizes his mistake a little bit too late, which means although he does contest the cap, he is going to take a little bit too much damage as a result. Now at this point, I realize that, okay, the Cossack's going to take a hell of a lot of damage, but at the same time, I have a lot of potential here to mess the enemy Cossacks' day up heavily. Because the one thing the Chapayev does have is radar, which I pop, in retrospect, way too early. If I'd have known that the Cossack was going to smoke up in order to try and evade, then I would have obviously held it. But at this point, again, I'm playing the Chapayev as a heavy cruiser, which means that I don't really mind pushing straight ahead here in order to get, shots on the enemy Cossack. I can pretty much deal with the Baltimore afterwards, as long as they don't take too much damage. And that's the plan. Now, whether it'll work this way, I'm not sure. Again, this was a couple of days ago, so I think it works out pretty well. And obviously, our ally Cossack was very gracious in giving us that smoke. Now remember, earlier on, I did get hydrated by the enemy Cossack, and if you look at the position of our Cossack, boom, the favor is returned, and we get free shots on the enemy Cossack. And it's pretty much the end of the road for him. So, we have one DD taken down, and now at this point, the Baltimore's all alone in A, with not all that much to do, frankly. Again, he can sit there, but at the end of the day, the Baltimore doesn't have torpedoes. I'm not 100% sure, but if I'm wrong, there's obviously going to be a comment pointing out that I'm wrong. So either way, all it really takes now is the Kansas to pop up, push into A, and basically make very, very, very short work of the Baltimore, which is going to happen. Now, on the other side of the map, things, although you can see that, things aren't going, how do we say, perfectly here, and they're not going to go perfectly for the rest of the game. This game's going to be very interesting, and as we get further and further towards the end, it's going to get very hairy, shall we say. As in, it's going to be razor thin, not like hair is going to fall from the sky or something and cloud the viewer. Anyways, the Baltimore does pop his radar, Now we have about 9 seconds on our radar, which is not really necessary because at these kind of type of ranges, and if the Baltimore shits, we're going to be fine anyways. Now the Kansas did shoot HE there, which is kind of troubling for, you know, future interactions, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here and say he had that loaded for the destroyer. Yeah, that's pretty much all I'm going to say there. The Baltimore's radar does go off, and as expected, the Kansas does decide to push in, and I will be pushing in along with him. Again, I'm playing this ship as though it's a heavy cruiser, and not as though it's something to be, you know, stand backish or scared of. Now that being said, the Kansas does seem to be a little bit hesitant to push in here. Not entirely sure why. Even if he does angle, and the Baltimore does have torpedoes, which doesn't. At worst, he's going to take maybe 1 or 2. Again, when you're playing games like this, it's always best to weigh up the best case scenario versus the worst case scenario and make a decision generally based on that. Worst case scenario here, he takes 1 or 2 torpedoes, heals them up, it's fine. Best case scenario, he one-shot the Baltimore and we are able to push through A, get the cap, and then push and flank the enemy team a hell of a lot quicker, which is always a good thing to accomplish. Now at this point I demonstrate just how bad I am at shooting, and we do manage to eventually take down the Baltimore, although it is with a bit of hard work. Eventually we do. There we go. And now it's our priority to push across the map and actually farm the enemy ships. But as luck would have it, we're down about 160 points. Our other flank is basically collapsed at this point, with the mains and the C-23 somehow getting within detection range of each other, which is kind of surprising, and our Mogami fleeing for his life. And although we did kill, you know, this flank of their team, it's not going to matter all that much if they have 2 caps and we have 1, and they already have a point advantage. Something that's very overlooked often in ranked games is the fact that, well, people tend to forget that caps exist on the map. And if they forget caps exist on the map, they definitely forget that points exist. And not many people very much pay attention to the fact that, you know, right now we're doing 160 points with, you know, 2 caps about to go to the enemy team, which could prove very disastrous. And what this results in is the fact that the enemy team, or the allied team who's down in points, tends to play a lot more passively than they should be, or they're allowed to play. The points, in a way, just put an extra timer on the game that people just generally aren't aware of, and I fall into this trap too. As you can see right now, we're in a pretty sticky situation. I mean, we're about to breach 750 points, and I'm sitting behind an island firing HE at a Vladivostok, hoping to set 1 fire on it. I can't even believe I said that in a sentence. But we do get a fire on the Vladivostok anyways. And for the risk of seeming out of other options, there's not really much more I can do in this situation, except maybe just perfect where I'm shooting at. We do land a couple of torpedoes. Thankfully, the Cossack did that. And obviously you get the announcement that at 750 points, the enemy team's just about to win. But again, the Z-23 is being chased by the mains, and he is... I don't want to say it's completely ineffective, as he does get the kill there, which is very useful. Now at this point, although he does get the kill, he's a bit out of position, but again, it's not major, you know. The death of enemy ships is much more important than the Z-23 being out of position. Anything at this point that basically limits the enemy's ability to actually kill ships or get points is incredibly significant. Anything that delays the game, in effect. And that's basically the whole aim here. Now the Z-23, if you can see on the minimap, is going to push to B, which is going to restore the cap advantage to ourselves. And we do get the kill on the Vladivostok, which is welcomed. But at this point, we are still in a very sticky situation. Because by the time the Z-23 gets to B and gets back, it's going to be... it's going to be really, really hard to come back from what's going to be... The enemy team's probably going to be on, I'd say 900 points. If not 900 points, very close to it. which is going to be extremely, extremely difficult. Now, in this scenario, the Cossack is getting a little bit too close to the enemy team. He's definitely, I think, within detection range. If not within detection range, he's definitely within Hydra range of the Monarch. No, sorry, I keep thinking that's a Bismarck. I see Bismarcks so often in ranked. Usually I'm the one playing them. That I think is the Bismarck Hydro. But it's not. It's the Monarch, which, if we know one thing about Royal Navy BBs, it's that their HE is extremely painful, which isn't always a good thing. Especially not if you're on the opposite end of that and you're playing the Cossack. But at this point, in this situation, I see no real benefit to me actually pushing here. Sure, I can push out and maybe draw attention away from the Odin or from the Monarch or from the Cossack to an extent. And, you know, be a pinata for the Monarch to shoot at. But in essence, I'm still much more, I would like to think, effective, maintaining my HP pool, not running the risk of being one shot, and still churning out a hell of a lot of damage. Unfortunately, the Cossack does go down to the Kaijuru, and we're in a bit of a sticky situation in this respect, because we are down 916 points to 650 points. And although we are capping B, it's not going to be enough, because the Cossack, or the Kansas, does go down through overextension. I get a little bit angry here, but it's not the Z-23's fault. That's a mistake on my behalf. Not really, because he does go for the cap. He does do everything he can to win us the game. But at this point I realise that, okay, now I'm going to have to start sacrificing much more of my HP pool in order to actually win this game. And alongside that, the Monarch does go down, which gives us a little bit of respite. If these kills hadn't happened, we would have run out of points, we would have run out of time, and the artificial timer off the caps would have ended on us effectively. We do manage to tank a good amount of shots from the Odin, which is nice, and with the Z-23 having launched torps, we're just going to pray that one of these actually hit and do enough damage to, well, end the Odin's life and buy us more time. Again, with the Monarch going down, the only one ship left is the Kaijero. I'm not even going to try that anymore. The Kaijero and the Odin, which does eventually go down. And now it's basically a 1v1. Because the Z-23 is way too far out of position. And if you look at my bottom right, you see I have 3 charges of radar. And with 3 charges of radar, the Kaijero gets a little bit too close. And well, there's only one thing left to do. I have 3 shots. If I kill him, I win the game. If I don't, it's a bit more in question. But, as luck would have it, with the last shot off the game and off my radar, we get the kill, we win the game, and it's GG. And until next time, I'll see you all in the next one.